sixth anniversary is October 20-something.
Yeah.
How about that?
36. Are we married to each other? What's happened here?
We got married.
It's
I wonder
gone
if we
very
got married the
weird.
same day. Well, anyway. Isn't that interesting? Jim Carter as Mr. Carson. We all know Mr. Carson. Mr. Carson has earned 4 Emmy nominations for his role as Mr. Carson, the butler, the head guy at Downton Abbey. He is a cricket player. He is an avid cyclist for charity.
Yeah, I've done a lot of... I've cycled all over the world for charity, yeah. Yeah, everywhere. In fact, one time I was cycling in Cambodia, and I was in my cycling shorts, which is not an image I want you to dwell on for very long, and I got recognised in the middle of Angkor Wat by a Chinese tourist who said, "Oh, Mr. Carson." That was very bizarre. Yeah.
In fact, Downton Abbey is all over the world.
All over the world, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, we were in South Island, New Zealand, and a waitress in a fish and chip shop took a selfie of us, and 2 days later that was on the front page of the local newspaper, which I think is quite slow in South Island, New Zealand. They're very, very, very beautiful.
Why do you think that this series, and now the movie, is popular across the world? What makes it worldwide popular?
I think it's so many things. It's romance. It's a romantic view of history, but it harks back to a time when people seem to be very certain of their roles in lives and in life and very comfortable with that. It's about people looking for love. Everybody from Daisy the maid through to Violet the Dowager Countess. They're all looking for love. Lady Edith most desperately. And really, people are comfortable with it. They said, let's have an hour, or in the case of the film, 2 hours of just bathing in a warm bath of comfort, and we can just let our shoulders relax and then just enjoy this world.
But I also think that you have upstairs and downstairs Lord Grantham and then Carson downstairs. These are men of honour. And they want to do the right thing. And I think people respond to that as well. You know, he's not a tyrant. He doesn't treat, the below stairs badly. And so you're looking at people who you admire rather than, well, I don't like him very much, but it's entertaining. But I think that both men also, they have a duty to do, and they will carry that out no matter what.
And it's always fascinating to sort of get an insight into sort of another tribe in a way. The upper class in England are a different tribe with their own rituals, and the rituals are bizarre. The way they dress, the way everything has to be sort of perfect, set on the table.
Sit up straight, right?
Just sit up straight.
You couldn't slouch in your seat.
No. The back of the chair is not for backs. It's for servants to pull in and out, and no elbows on the table. Knife and fork absolutely in a straight line. No food left on your plate at the end of dinner. All those things. Those rituals, I think, are sort of exotic and interesting to people.
Mr. Carson, as much as we loved him, I don't want to say you were stodgy, but you were so very, very proper. But let me just say, but when you walk up to the house and they shoot you from... you just look like a giant. What? That is the most fantastic. Isn't that the best shot? Isn't that the best? And so I guess that was an idea of the director? Or?
Yeah, our director, a lovely American chap, Michael Engler, who's worked over here on Deadwood and all sorts, West Wing, all sorts of series over here. He'd done a few episodes, several episodes of the television series, including the finale, and he came back to do the film. And Michael is a wonderful director. He covers the range. He's very good technically, but because his background is in theatre, he's really good with the story and with the actors, and he gave us a lot of help, because there's a danger when you settle into a series and that you can become a little bit comfortable, and he was always challenging us to use our imagination, and I owe him that shot entirely.
Well, you come back, you have retired. At the end of the series, Mr. Carson retires, but he comes back because it's a royal visit from the King and Queen in the movie, and the hilarity. It's funny, it's touching, like you said, it's everything. And Miss Staunton plays the lady in waiting to the Queen, so you figure prominently in the film.
Yes, I do.
Because, well, I don't want to give anything away.
No, you can't. And I'd have to kill you if you gave anything away. But it was a huge surprise to be cast in the film, and then to be given a very satisfying role. And she is a woman with a past and a secret. And this secret, and that's how it will remain, it does affect the family. So that was lovely to come in with a good storyline.
And you have some great scenes with the Dowager Countess,
Yes.
Maggie Smith,
Yep.
who is back. The whole cast is back, right?
Yeah, we all
Everyone.
come back. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. With some wonderful new additions, including the King and Queen, and that's a momentous. It's hard to overemphasise what a huge occasion that would be for a house in England in 1927, because they were so remote, they were so revered and so remote. And then I think there was a conscious sort of decision to be slightly more visible. So they went around visiting the stately homes in the north, and there's a wonderful scene in the film, and this is not giving anything away because it's been on the trailers, of the royal troop riding into the village, and you can just imagine how glamorous that was, for people. And of course, if the King and Queen ask themselves to stay, you're not going to say no.
Right.
So it's the biggest moment of anybody's life.
The staff is very excited.
Very excited.
And they have to do some conniving, and that's all I'll say. Well, I think, though, that the family is pretty cool. Or are they just acting? They're pretty cool about this royal visit.
Well, I think they're cool because the servants do everything.
That's me, folks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true. I mean, they say this is going to happen and someone else makes it happen. And that's,
Well, mind you, they
what a
do roll
life,
up their
huh?
sleeves and go out in the rain. They do get wet, don't they? Bless them. For posh people, they don't like to get wet.
So that's a very good point. Thank you. Because, they're cool and calm, but the staff, well, you'll see what the staff does. In the film, I don't want to give anything
But as you
away.
said, though, in Downton, even in the series, that, as you said, it's like upstairs is the swan, and downstairs are the feet doing all the work, getting the swan from A to B. So I think that's
Our job downstairs is to make life perfect for people upstairs, and we derive a lot of satisfaction from making it. Mr. Carson, in particular, who stage manages the life of the upstairs people to perfection, so that they never know. And of course, we're working incredibly hard to do that. The maids are up at 4 a.m, building the fires, boiling the water. In the old days, carrying the hot water upstairs and helping people to get dressed, doing everything for them, and so they don't even know that we're there, that their life is perfect. And we in those days get a lot of satisfaction from that.
But I was always interested in the relationship between the servants and the upper class. For instance, you had a wonderful relationship with Lady Mary. She liked you. In fact, your soon-to-be wife eventually, Mrs. Hughes, let you know about it all the time, about how,
Absolutely, yeah. But that's a very believable relationship to me, because a butler and a housekeeper and the cook would always be unmarried. Although the cook was called Mrs. Patmore, she was unmarried. Mrs. Hughes, the housekeeper, unmarried. They always were. They were married to the family. So they weren't, they had no free time. They were totally bonded to the family, really. So it's a very unusual thing for me, for the butler to marry the housekeeper. That probably wouldn't have happened. It would have probably meant us leaving service to be able to do that. So this starchy old gentleman, to see these 3 young sisters when they were, little, of course they would have tugged at his heartstrings. And Lady Mary is his favourite, and he's got this fatherly affection for her. And there's a marvellous moment in season 3 of the television series when Lady Mary came down the stairs in her wedding dress, and Lord Grantham and I were waiting at the bottom of the stairs, and she said, "Will I do Carson? Will I do?" And I said, "Perfectly, my lady." And I liked it that she asked me for approval on her wedding day. So that was a very moving moment.
I always loved that relationship. Her relationship with her maid, Anna, is close, too. She seems to have the better relationships throughout the series and even in the film with the staff. I guess that's just her character.
I think they'd spend so much time together that there would be, they're 2 young women of similar age. They would be confidants of each other. And again, that's very believable.
What is the chance of a Mr. Carson? You acted royal. You seemed like an upper class guy. You took your job so seriously.
Yeah, there's a lot of status
He
to
did,
being
I
a
should
butler. I mean, for a servant, there's a lot of status goes with that. It's a powerful figure, and particularly a sober butler was much to be. Because the butler was in charge of all the wine, and if you had a butler, it said, "Oh, they haven't finished that one."
That's right. Yeah.
So Mr. Carson's very sober, and he's very proud of his job. And don't forget, a butler would have had his own manservant, helping me into his costume, into his they didn't call it a uniform, I think they call it. Helping him get dressed, because you can't get into that gear without some help. The starch collars and the starch waistcoats and stuff. So I did. It's a status-ridden profession. Yeah.
What is it like now in England? Does Meghan Markle have ladies in waiting around her?
The ladies in waiting still exist.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having a lady in waiting?
Yeah, and our
They're probably
And
called...
the lady, you were a lady though. You were your character is not a servant class though.
No, not at all. Lady in waiting, they're not servant class. And, I don't think, my character wouldn't help her dress. She'd have a maid. The Queen would have a maid. But lady in waiting, I suppose, is a little bit like a PA. I mean, she will come in the morning and tell the Queen, we're doing this, 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 and this.
Oh, okay.
And then, it's
but it's a very high-born,
Yeah.
people, very, very aristocratic.
Yeah, people did, yeah.
And so every time you see somebody, Meghan Markle or whatever,
Kate Middleton.
Yeah, or the Duchess of Cambridge and the Duchess of Sussex.
Sussex,
yes,
yes.
walking along, the person 2 feet behind them who takes all the poses that the children are given her, that's the lady in waiting usually.
Yeah.
Will we see another Downton Abbey movie? I mean, this one's just opening Friday, but I could watch these people for forever.
It's so funny because, as you said, that's what people have been saying since last week. We were doing all the publicity in England last week. Oh, is it going to be another one? And I've just thought now, is it because there have been, all those episodes that you automatically think, well, there's going to be another one because there always has been another one. So, and it's very encouraging that people are already wanting more, having hardly seen it. But because I'm in the story, but I'm on the outskirts. But I know that the fans want to see all those regular characters back. And when we've watched it with an audience, and when the people come on the screen, they're just cheering because they can't. They're back.
Downton 10, Carson in space.
We'll be there. We'll be in the theater. Downton Abbey, the movie opens September 20th. In theaters everywhere. And it has been such a pleasure to have Jim Carter and Imelda Staunton here. You're going to love the film, everyone. You're going to absolutely love it. Thank you. Please,
Thank you
please
very
come
much.
back
We
when
will.
you do the next
We
one.
will, of course we will.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
We would love it.
Let's have a big group photo.
Absolutely.